Welcome to HealthTech Hustle. We exist to share stories of the brave entrepreneurs helping to solve the most important problems in digital health today. We interview top leaders in health tech and bring them onto our show each week to listen and learn from their story. With your host, Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of HealthTech Hustle podcast. Today, I'm joined by two very special ladies, Ms. Madison Campbell and Liesel Vaidya. They are the co-founders of Leda Health, and they are building redesigned tools for survivors of sexual assault. So I'm excited to have them on and kind of pick their brains and allow them an opportunity to share their story and share what they're working on in the space. So with that being said, ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. We're super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. So let's just jump into it. Why don't you start, Madison? Just give a brief background of who you are and kind of how you got into health tech. And then after that, just throw it over to Liesel. Give a little
Yeah, of course. So my background is in epidemiology. So, population-based health and creating innovation has always been something that I've been super interested and excited about. But unfortunately, when I was in college, like 1 in 4 other women in college, I was sexually assaulted. So, I sat with that trauma for a long time, but I've been able to take that trauma and actually be able to, start this company alongside my magnificent, most amazing, other half, Liesel. In being able to create the first ever at-home sexual assault evidence collection kit. But Liesel has an even better story than I do. And Liesel, off to you.
She hypes me up too much. But hey everyone, my name is Liesel Vaidya, and my background is in software engineering. Kind of backtracking off to my background, I was actually born and raised in Kathmandu, Nepal, on the other side of the world. So, growing up, I had this whole experience of seeing what resources are available in developing countries. And sort of when I came here and started learning about what currently is available for survivors in the United States, and seeing so many gaps and the lack of innovation in this space kind of really, got me thinking, okay, why exactly hasn't there been innovation in this space? And when I met Madison, Madison is amazing. Madison is the best salesperson, or even, she's just like a visionary in general. But when I met her and when she pitched me the idea for this company, I was like, I am 100% in, this needs to be done. And that's how we got started.
Awesome. And I remember before we even recorded this podcast, you kind of gave a brief background on the company. And what stood out to me is the attention that you guys got when you originally tried to get your message out. And it wasn't as planned. So I kind of want you guys to cover that and share your experience and share what happened.
Well, when you start a company, any company, I don't think anyone realizes that people are going to pay attention to you, right? You put up a Squarespace website, you put a little bit of information about what you want to accomplish, what you're building. And, our perception was, my parents will read this and they'll finally know that, their college money that they spent did not go to waste. But other than that, college friends and my parents reading this, we did not expect anybody to ever pay attention to anything that we did, right? We are this 2, woman team in a very small Brooklyn office, don't even have our own enclosed office, right? We have 2 desks, we have 2 desks in this massive, office pile, got into this amazing program. So we didn't have to pay because we had no money. And then the world blew up. So what ended up happening, and you know what, I'm going to tell you something I don't tell a lot of other people, but this is the actual story of how it happened. So everybody was at Burning Man. Are you familiar with Burning Man?
I'm familiar. Never been, but I'm aware.
Yeah. So Burning Man happens actually, late August, early September, and all of Silicon Valley, so many people, they go to the desert. And I did not go to Burning Man, right? I was not cool enough. I didn't go to Burning Man. And so I was sitting in our office and no one was there. No one was working. Everyone was partying. Everyone's having a good time. And I decided, okay, well, I'm going to take all this time and actually put it towards, the company, right? While everyone's away, I'm going to do something for the company. So during that time, I sent an email out to every single college president in America, all within a matter of 36 hours. And Liesel will tell you what happened after that.
This kind of justifies when I said that Madison is an amazing salesperson. But so in a matter of 36 hours, she emailed every single college president in this country. And what happened was one of those emails went to Michigan State University, the home of Larry Nassar. And I don't think that they were happy that they received an email saying, hey, we would like to donate some sexual assault kits to your university. And what ended up happening was they forwarded that email to their attorney general, who then the very next day issued us a cease and desist letter. And she also went to, the media and this whole press around our company and went to every single attorney general in the United States, and they all came after us. So by the end of, the first month, we had 16 cease and desist letters, 5 subpoenas, and 16 members of the Congress wrote to us. And this was like at the beginning of starting our company, when we essentially had an idea and a Squarespace website up.
And interesting. Well, there's one thing that you could take from that is that the hustle actually got you some opportunities, right? But it wasn't the attention that you wanted, but I respect the hustle nonetheless. But you guys are getting all this backlash from the media, from a bunch of other members, important members, scary members, people with authority. And so that was very early on in the stage, right? So how did you guys overcome that? At what point did you guys say, okay, we're at the bottom, now we're getting momentum going forward?
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yep. I love Drake.
Yeah, so one, all press is good press. I think that's important to note. And when you do hustle that hard, right? There sometimes will be things that you don't expect, right? But with that came also amazing things, right? The mere fact that every news article, every attorney general kind of started having conversations with us, put our name out there, right? Think about so many companies, so many legislators, so many policy advocates who try to get meetings with these folks and are unable to get meetings with these folks or even know the right people to talk to. Suddenly, all of a sudden, we have direct access to exactly the people we need to talk to. Now they have to talk to us, right? We're on their radar. And so, we've taken it and we've been able to kind of redefine our focus, taking a lot of the critique and feedback, but also realizing that, we are talking about a highly political, topic, which for a very long time, unfortunately, has not been addressed by the U.S. government. And when you go and address something that the U.S. government has ignored for far too long, you don't expect them to say, oh my God, thank you so much for picking up where we fucked up. You expect them to say, oh my God, who are you? And what are you trying to do? You guys are going to make me look bad. But we, out of all the press, we were able to get, investors who were early investors in Uber and other, high regulatory companies. So, not only closing investment round, but also closing, different universities and figuring out, who are going to be our early adopters, who are really going to fight for this, and finding a key set of audience members who believe in what we're doing. and believe that, for far too long, there has not been another solution, and that they trust in us to be that other solution.
Interesting. So I like that. So you guys had an idea, you created a product, and you wanted to get it out, but the way that you guys did it, it kind of backlash. But what it did was propel you into that next level and got you exposure that you guys needed in order to be pushed in the right direction, to make the connections and build the relationships and network to create more opportunities, right? But I kind
Yeah.
of want to backtrack a little bit because I have a question. You said you had like your own sexual assault experience, right? And then from there, you started this company. And so, like, what kind of gave you guys the courage to be like, hey, we had this heartbreaking personal thing happen to us, but instead of let it hold us back, like you hear so many stories of it doing to people, you women were just strong enough to be like, you know what, let's turn this into a full-on company. Let's see how we could help the world. So I respect that. But I want to understand where your courage, where that inspiration comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard, right? It wasn't easy. Turning your trauma into a company is probably the most challenging thing. And to any listeners that are thinking about how they can, turn their trauma into a company, it's very hard because, not only do you have to address your trauma and get the courage to address your trauma straight on, but every single moment of your life has to be now about, reliving it, right? My day to day is talking about my sexual assault 11 to 12 times a day. And, that is something that I do in the pursuit of getting other people justice. I was not able to get justice. I chose not to report. I was too scared. I was too frightened. I thought people were going to blame me. I didn't think anyone was going to believe me. So I was not able to get justice. But what I really sat and thought about was, what does justice mean for me? Does it mean, making sure that he never sexually assaults someone again, that he's in a jail, he's in a prison? It wasn't about that for me. What it was about is making sure that for the rest of my life, for anybody who is sexually assaulted, if they would like to get justice, they can, and we can give them the resources. I was unable to feel empowered at that moment.
Okay. Lisa, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really more of, if you don't have your own story, which I don't, you almost always know someone else who has, whether it's a family member or a friend. And, me being from Nepal and India being our neighboring country, it's like sexual assault on the other side of the world is rampant. And the resources available and the laws that exist to, even protect survivors is minimal. So when I came to the United States and saw this problem, I was shocked at the lack of innovation, the limited amount of resources that are available. And I said, hey, like, let's fix this. We can do something. We can build something. There's so many things that we can do in this space. Let's go and build something that actually works, that actually survivors use, that is actually survivor centric.
Nice. And so it's interesting hearing you guys speak because you guys kind of complement each other very well. And like Madison, like the visionary, the salesperson, able to articulate a story well. You articulate just as good too, Lisa. But you're more the tech background, I remember you saying. And so
Yes.
I'm interested to hear more about like your day-to-day responsibility and the teams that you're working with and like your process of going about creating this and getting it out there. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I do just about everything because we're still early on. So wearing all sorts of hat, be it technical or product related, operational, or anything else, even fundraising. But at the same time, what I mostly focus on, and I'm focusing on at Leda, is really building our lead solution, as well as all the other follow-up resources surrounding that. And to kind of, talk about our lead solution, which is the at-home kits, we are building an at-home sexual assault evidence collection kit using both hardware and software technology. Right now, the existing resource that's being used in the hospital rape kit, really does not have any innovative technology that they're using. And what we're really doing is, we've filed patents on a tamper-proof hardware device. We're building a software application that is HIPAA compliant, and that's essentially a guidance and reporting tool for survivors. And this entire process is really about making it private, accessible, and easy to use, and really survivor-centric.
Oh, okay. And you guys kind of touched on it a little earlier as you're talking, and you had mentioned universities, but who else would be like a good target audience, someone who you can see very like taking advantage of this?
We think that the military, for far too long, has had a huge problem with dealing with sexual assault. Oftentimes people will be on deployment, being, sexually assaulted, unable to collect evidence or unable to feel confident enough to actually file a report. Or even, we've heard from a multitude of individuals serving in the U.S. Marines or Navy who will be stuck, at a naval base, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, for months on end, unable to do anything because they're in the same ship as their abuser. And so we really think the military is prime for innovation. The Department of Defense, states that they do want to make a change. And I believe that Leda is going to be part of that change.
Oh, okay. That's a good, I didn't even think about that. Like, it makes sense for like schools and stuff because college, but yeah, you don't even think about military. I mean, as of recently, you start seeing all those reports in the news and stuff, and you're like, man, like that you wouldn't think of that.
Yeah, what I've been saying is also, the pandemic in 2020 has just enforced a lot of resources into motion that were frankly overdue years and years ago, right?
Oh, okay. And so we already mentioned a couple of times about the obstacle you face in the beginning, but as entrepreneurs, we know you don't just face one and done. So what other obstacles, challenges have you guys faced in your entrepreneurship journey with this company that's really stuck out to you? How did you guys overcome that?
I think fundraising is a big obstacle that we've been successful, but also only successful because we failed a bunch of times, right? When we started the company, we were part of an accelerator called Alchemist Accelerator, which is so amazing. They're some of the most helpful, kindest people you will ever meet in the startup community. And one of the early things that they told us was, in general, getting funding as a female-founded startup is difficult. Less than 2% of female, founded companies get startup venture funding. So we know that the odds were not in our favor, right? 2%, that's, other than milk, that's not really that great, of a thing to have 2% of anything, right? But, one of the things that we were also told early on is think about fundraising, right? You're fundraising from people that have a power dynamic. They're oftentimes, frankly speaking, older white guys, right? Who have tons of money, tons of clout, been in the industry, for a very long time. And when you look at a lot of these cases of sexual discrimination, harassment, assault, it happens to be with, individuals that are at a higher power, a higher standing in life. They have more money, they've made it in their career, and they have that power dynamic to not necessarily treat women as equals. So not only, do we have to fundraise, put ourselves out there, which is difficult, and in less than 2% of, companies in our range getting funding. So not only do we have that, but we're also a sexual assault company having to raise from some of the wealthiest men. I wish it was, there was more women investors, but there's not a lot. From the wealthiest men in the world who happen to be maybe not the best of people, right? And they've, so it's a double whammy, right? I mean, we have spent more time than I care to tell you about getting on phone calls and talking about false allegations. We spend 90% of our investment calls talking about let me paint you a story. You see, there's a girl, he says he's into me, and he's totally liking it. I take her home, I put some candles on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm giving her a massage. She's like, oh my God, I'm so into you. And then, the next morning he steals my condom and puts it in your kit. And I'm like, man, no one is going to steal your condom, right? You have a higher likelihood of being struck by lightning than having a false allegation against you. And so from an investment standpoint, we have to deal with things that no other company deals with, because we have to deal with, a lot of preconceived notions about sexual assault, about discrimination, about, equality, amongst, hey, maybe in 2020, it's not that great to touch somebody without getting consent. I know, crazy, to think that might be the case, but that is what we have to deal with. And that has been a super big challenge.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because like I've had other guests on and they share like their challenge of whether they're an international student trying to come into the US or their race, they're being judged by their race, but you guys are being judged by your gender, maybe even your age as well, because you guys are younger. But you just the fact that there's no diversity within the people that you're trying to like connect with, and then just the fact that since there is no diversity, those people that you are trying to connect with, they have those different perspectives. And so you kind of have to educate them more than you would like. And so it kind of goes into like a follow-up question for me is like, how are you guys going about educating the general public, educating like your target audience?
I mean, that kind of goes back into, just in general, how much people actually know about sexual assault and what's available, right? Like even when I first started this company, I had to learn everything from scratch. I had no idea what a rape kit was. I had no idea, where you would get one. I didn't even really know what Title IX was in colleges, and I went to a US college here for 4 years. So all these little things, like I had to teach myself. And this is the same thing that we have to do, 20 times every single day, where we're like, this is the problem. This is what exists. And this is the process that you have to go through. And it's shocking that majority of the individuals don't really know what's out there. And it's more, this is why it's a big problem, because most people don't know what's out there, what resources are available. And if you're sexually assaulted, imagine you being in the most traumatic state, like mindset, and you actually have to Google, hey, I was sexually assaulted. What do I have to do, right? Mm-hmm. And logistically speaking and being practical, you're wasting time. And it's just the amount of information out there. It's confusing. It's a lot. So that's kind of what we're combating. And also kind of to when you said that, hey, if with other founders, it's about age and whatnot, we actually do get that too. We've run into meetings where people are like, so who's the adult in the room? Because we're both 23 and 24-year-olds.
You, Liesel, I'm 24, you're 25. I know you keep trying to, pretend like.
I think after like last year, I stopped celebrating my birthday, so I don't even know how.
It's okay, 2020 threw everybody off.
Yeah, it's like we're somewhere in the 20s, right? Like mid 20s. No, it was funny. So when the articles came out, I was 23 at the time. And so a lot of the articles were like, Madison, 23-year-old founder. And sometimes they would say like 23 and me too, get it? Like, 23 and me, but 23 and me too, hashtag me too. So it was really entertaining. And now to this date, it's like, I had my birthday immediately after kind of all the craziness happened. But everyone still thinks that I'm going to be 23 for the rest of my life. And frankly speaking, I'm going to love it. It's going to be great. I'm going to roll with it.
No, that's like one thing I really respect about you guys is like, especially just being able to share your story and just like you guys having that courage, like I said earlier, and just taking that leap and turning your trauma into a company, like you said. And like that takes a lot of guts, especially for your guys' age and just knowing what you guys are getting into and you guys are just keep on grinding. So that's why I wanted to have you guys on. I saw the potential and I knew the value that you guys could bring to the audience because everybody has a story. Everybody can learn from other people's story. And so I'm glad you guys decided to come on and share that.
I think one of the most important things that I've learned is never dream too big, right? I think that when I sat down to write all those emails to colleges and universities, I had no idea what would happen. I didn't think anything would happen. But, if you don't dream big enough and you don't think in I'm going to go do this and it's going to work and I'll figure it out, right? If you don't think like that, you're never going to get far, with your startup or with your dream. And so if you think big ideas, big change, that is really how I believe, startups succeed and thrive, is never losing that childlike quality of having an active imagination and knowing that, something can fail, but you will pick yourself up again and you will make it succeed.
Coming up towards the end of this podcast, and we've been talking about a lot of interesting topics around sexual assault and just how you guys are navigating the healthcare industry with growing the company, being entrepreneur driven. But I want to end this podcast on a little lighter exercise, something I call the rapid fire round. So I'm asking you guys a series of questions and you guys just give me whatever you guys come up with. All right. So we'll have Madison answer and then Liesel can answer.
Great.
All right. So question number 1, favorite book of all time.
Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Okay. Liesel?
Oh, I don't have a favorite book, but the current book that I'm reading is the Uber one, the one with the red cover.
Uber one. All right. Question number 2. Who is the biggest influence in your life or career?
My mother. My mother is an amazing woman.
Same, like you stole that answer from my mouth. My mom, she's the reason that I'm here today.
Shout out to moms. Okay. And then what is one goal you want to accomplish this year?
I want to be at least on one college campus, knowing that we're helping sexual assault survivors.
Similar answer, similar vision. I want to ensure that survivors, wherever they are able to use resources that we're building by the end of this year.
Awesome. And then last one, I know you guys are kind of young, but what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Use protection. No, I'm just kidding. Don't go to Miami your sophomore year. Things will get really crazy. Don't do that. No, I would have told my 20-year-old self to follow your gut when you meet people and understand who is good and who is bad. I think one of the things that when you're young you don't realize is you can tell off the bat when someone is a good person and someone is a bad person. If you follow that gut, most of the time it will lead you to success. But there has been far too many times in my life where I have not followed that gut instinct and I have ended up, with people that weren't that great. And so that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self is follow your gut.
You mean your now self?
Yeah. Yeah.
What you guys are doing?
Yeah. I guess my advice to any other 20-year-olds would be think of life as a hackathon and, just like imagine the best version of yourself and just go be that person. Go build things, go do things. Build amazing things.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a perfect way to end the episode. That's the end of the questions. I mean, before we actually end, where could people learn more about you guys individually and more about your company?
Yes. We are at leda.co. That's our website. Also, we just started being active on Twitter if you guys want to follow us. I am at Liesel Vaidya, Liesel Vaidya. Madison, what's your Twitter handle?
It's called Martyr Dyson. So it's martyr like literally a martyr, MARTYR, and then Dyson, DISON. It's a combination of my name Madison and the name of being a martyr, which we kind of are at this point.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you ladies again for jumping on and sharing your story. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of HealthTech Hustle with Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital. Tune in next week for another interview with an expert leader in digital health.